Parliament, First Deputy Speaker, overruling Parliament's rejection of the 2022 budget statement.
Who is the man of the season? Well, for me, Clara, it is the government official, Dr. Ekufu Dampare.
And Michelin, word on the streets, has been nicknamed Dampese. My name is Clara Blano. With me is
Michelin Taka. Now, let's start off from the presidency. As the country tried to rebuild following a slowdown of activities due to the COVID-19 pandemic, President Nana Akufo-Addo spent the year beefing up economic opportunities in the country as a means to improve the lives of the citizenry and mitigate the effect of the COVID-19 virus both home and abroad. President Akufo-Addo called on Ghanaians and the world to put up their shoulders to the oar to bring about economic stability.
His activities centered mainly on building an enabling environment through sound economic policies to reduce the hardship brought on by the virus. The president's continued COVID updates to the nation led to a trend which became known as fellow Ghanaians.
The country is still reeling from months of pressure on all fronts due to the COVID-19 pandemic. President Akufo started his new year at a watch night service at the Accra Ridge Church. On January 7, President Akufo and Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia were sworn into office for a second term. In response to allegations of irregularities by the former president and flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress NDC in the 2020 presidential election, Mr. John Mahama, President Akufo-Addo, and the Electoral Commission denied all the claims in the petition filed at the Supreme Court. At this year's annual New Year's School in January, government announced plans to hold discussions with COVID-19 vaccine manufacturing companies with a view to ordering a suitable dosage for use in Ghana. President Akufo-Addo tasked local pharmaceutical companies to explore local avenues to develop a vaccine to fight the coronavirus in the country. The African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, AFCTA, which became effective on January 1, 2021, was a key area of focus for the Akufo-Addo-led administration as it pursued an active agenda to move Ghana beyond aid. As had become a regular feature in many homes at the height of the pandemic, the president carried on with a Sunday night update on measures taken against the spread of the coronavirus. The periodic addresses soon became known as Fellow Ghanaians, coined from the president's opener to his address.
Fellow Ghanaians, good evening.
600,000 COVID-19 vaccines arrived in the country in early March via the COVAX facility set up to ensure equitable distribution of vaccines at a time of great demand across the globe. A few days later, the president Nana Akufo-Addo went into the books as the first Ghanaian to take a COVID-19 vaccine on our shores. At the Tertiary Military Hospital in Accra, the president, in the company of the First Lady, Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, led by example to lay the concerns of some about the coronavirus and the vaccine. The issue of same-sex marriage came up strongly this year and dominated headlines and conversations. President Akufo-Addo said same-sex marriage will not be legalized in Ghana under his watch. Following the parliamentary approval of the 16 nominees for regional minister positions, the president formalized their appointment at swearing-in ceremony at the Jubilee House. President Akufo-Addo cut the sod for work to start on the Ghana Award House. The two-story building, which will serve administrative and other purposes for the head of state award scheme, was valued at 5 million Ghana cedis. When the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, died on 9th April 2021, President Akufo-Addo joined other world leaders and the global community to send a message of condolence to Queen Elizabeth and to the British royal family. The biggest steel factory in West Africa formally opened in April at Pram Pram in the Greater Accra region under the One District One Factory initiative. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2021 May Day celebration was held at the studios of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation instead of the Independence Square. The president met the top 10 WASI students in May to congratulate them. This year's 83rd celebration, also held virtually at the studios of Broadcasting House in Accra, President Akufo-Addo admonished school heads, especially boarding or activists, from using the schools to fight ideological and religious battles. Ahead of the 2021 population and housing census, President Akufo-Addo urged Ghanaians to provide only accurate information to the enumerators while assuring the public that all information provided will be strictly confidential. Census officials were at the residence of President Akufo-Addo to enumerate him and its family on day one of the start of the exercise.
Also during the year, Nana Akufo-Addo condemned the smuggling of government's subsidized fertilizer from the Upper West region to neighboring Burkina Faso, describing it as unpatriotic. This year also saw the launch of Ghana's first ever national security document. President Akufo-Addo also inaugurated the National Security Ministry building to house the Ministry of National Security staff. In July, Ghana's National Mosque, a 15,000 capacity ultra-modern place of worship, was opened to the public. Following a formal ceremony by President Akufo-Addo in Accra, the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, joined Muslims in Accra at their first Eid al-Adha at the newly inaugurated National Mosque of Ghana in Accra. The National Board for Small-Scale Industries, NBSSI, was elevated into what is now the Ghana Enterprises Agency, GEA, to give it more impact. As part of a national effort to restore Ghana's forest cover and reserves as well as the environment, President Akufo-Addo launched the Green Ghana Day initiative to plant 5 million trees to commemorate the day. A 4-tier interchange project located at Pokuase in the Ganoth district of Greater Accra was fully completed and inaugurated by President Akufo-Addo this year. It is the first 4-tier interchange in West Africa. Government announced plans to construct 111 district hospitals across the country, dubbed Agenda 111. Under the initiative, districts that did not already have a hospital will get at least one fully equipped state-of-the-art district hospital in the next 2 years. When he swore the new special prosecutor, Mr. Kisi Ajabin, into office, President Akufo-Addo pledged the office of a higher level of independence and adequate resources to work with the utmost professionalism. President Akufo-Addo laid the foundation stone for the first ever modern foundry and machine tooling center on the premises of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission to serve the country's industrial needs. President Akufo-Addo launched 4 integrated aluminium industry projects in Accra. At the ceremony, the government approved the selection of Rockshore International, a wholly Ghanaian mining company, as a strategic partner for the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation. As part of measures to ease pressure on the country's coffers and help speed up the recovery post-COVID-19, President Akufo-Addo said there will be no salary increase for himself, the Vice President, ministers, deputies and all government appointees for the next 12 months. He disclosed this in an address to workers at the forecourt of the TUC headquarters in Accra as negotiations for a new minimum wage got underway. The president visited a number of countries during the year. Here are highlights of some of his travels in pictures. Back home, President Akufo-Addo also went around the 16 regions, keeping an eye on infrastructural activities and to listen to the concerns of Ghanaians. Here are some of his visits in pictures. As chairman of the ECOWAS bloc, President Akufo-Addo also undertook some functions to advance the work of the regional bloc. Here are a few activities of the president on the sub-regional front, as well as some diplomatic engagements with foreign dignitaries in pictures. appointing authority, President Akufo-Addo inaugurated boards of various public bodies to oversee the administration of the enterprises. A flashback to some of those inaugurations and swearing-in ceremonies.
Global economy remained in the deep recession caused by COVID-19, and many countries started off 2021 in recovery mode. As a leader of the country's economic management team, cushioning businesses and industries against the hefty punches thrown by COVID-19 remained at the center of engagement by the second gentleman of the land in 2021.
The Vice President's activities were largely dominated by efforts to digitize the economy, to promote efficiency and plug revenue leakages. On his itinerary were other social and religious activities. We recap the V's calendar.
The Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, and his wife, Hajia Samira, both Muslims, joined services of worshippers in various churches in the Ashanti region on New Year's Eve, offering prayers for better fortunes in 2021. When the body of the former president, Jerry John Rawlings, was laid in state ahead of his burial in Accra, Vice President Dr. Bawumia was among dignitaries who paid their last respect and filed past his remains at the Accra International Conference Center. His wife, Mrs. Samira Bawumia, and two former presidents, John Agyekum Kufuor and John Mahama, also paid their respect. On 28 February 2021, Ghana marked the 73rd anniversary of the Christian Book Crossroad shooting incident. As is customary of this day, a solemn flag raising and wreath laying ceremony was held at the Nationalism Park, close to the Freedom Monument at Osu, Accra. Vice President Bawumia was at the ceremony, where some surviving ex-servicemen mounted a parade to honor their fallen colleagues. The Vice President and his family were duly enumerated during the population and housing census which took place this year. When it seems that all was not well at Ejura in the Ashanti region, following the killing of social activist Ibrahim Kaka and protests during which 2 others were killed and 4 others injured, Vice President was there calling on the youth to be calm. He led a government delegation to get direct accounts of the situation from residents of Ejura and its environs. The Vice President was an ardent advocate for revenue mobilization during the year under review, insisting on several platforms that effective domestic revenue mobilization machinery in place for the country will mean no revenue shortfalls as a result of tax evasion and non-compliance. At the launch of the Revenue Assurance and Compliance Enforcement Race in Accra, Dr. Bawumia was confident that this initiative would help to do away with tax leakages in critical areas such as free zones, gold exports, mining, petroleum, and other sectors where tax evasion and fraud are dominant.
On many podiums during the year, the Vice President talked about Ghana's journey to digitization. On one such occasion was at the public lecture at the Ashesi University at Ibrekusu in Greater Accra. Dr. Bawumia said the soft building blocks have been laid through the various digitization infrastructure to promote efficiency, effectiveness, reduce corruption, broaden the tax base, among others, to transform Ghana's economy. Vice President Bawumia also disclosed plans to introduce a national e-pharmacy for a wide variety of quality medicines to eliminate the problem of fake drugs, make drugs accessible to patients, a competitive regime. As part of the drive to transform the economy through digitalization, the Vice President also announced the government's plans for the National Identification Card, also known as the Ghana Card, to be recognized as one of the e-passports across the world from 2022. Dr. Bawumia said when this is done, it can be read and verified at all international civil aviation organization compliant borders in 197 countries and 44,000 airports around the world, meaning that holders of the Ghana card will be allowed to board any flight to Ghana with a card. Here are some more activities in pictures.
For the woman who some call the mother of the nation, the First Lady, Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, improving health matters remained front and center of her activities in 2021. Improving capacity of health facilities for improved access and quality of care was her main goal. Her activities reflected the vision as she and her Rebecca Foundation extended a helping hand to schools and health facilities alike.
While significant strides have been made in Ghana's healthcare sector, inequalities remained a challenge even in 2021. From research, over 40% of healthcare in Africa is provided by faith-based facilities. Mindful of this, the First Lady, Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, launched LifeNet International with partners with existing faith-based healthcare facilities to provide quality, sustainable healthcare to save lives. In July, the issue of allowances paid to spouses of the president and the vice president dominated public discourse across the country as the debate raged on over whether or not the spouses deserve the allowance. Statements were issued from the office of the First Lady, Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, and the wife of the Vice President, Hajia Samira Bawumia, that both the ladies had refunded allowances given to them by the state since 2017. Reading is dear to the First Lady's heart, and her efforts to get more people to cultivate the habit continued in 2021. Mrs. Akufo-Addo launched a book titled The Mother in the Monster, Calming the Storm at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, Leadership at the Tough Terrain. The book, written by Dr. Okoboy, a board chair of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital in 2018, chronicles his experiences during his tenure, during which time he instituted various reforms which he detailed in his new book. The First Lady inaugurated an ultra-modern hostel facility which was started in February 2017 at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital in Accra. The 54-bed capacity hostel was constructed by the Rebecca Foundation to ease the constraint of parents whose children are suffering from cancer and receiving care at Korle Bu. Mrs. Akufo-Addo said the hostel facility, which is known as the Sunshine Hostel at Korle Bu, is a move to restore hope in Ghana's healthcare system. In a rare move, Mrs. Akufo-Addo launched Ghana's maiden First Ladies Cup competition in the year under review. The First Ladies Cup, put together by the Ghana League Clubs Association, is the female version of the President Cup, which has become a fixture on the nation's football calendar. Maintaining focus on football, the First Lady, Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, presented 30,000 cedis in cash to treble winners, Sekondi Hazakas Ladies Football Club. It was a pat on the back and to support their participation in the finals of the 2021 CAF Women's Champions League in Egypt. The endorsement by the First Lady came on the heels of a similar recognition by the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in Accra a couple of weeks prior. Hazaka's ladies went on to win silver at the competition. Still in the month of November, the First Lady launched the 2021 NHIS Week in Accra, announcing the inclusion of 4 childhood cancers and family planning services onto the NHIS benefit package. These services are expected to offset the cost of treatment and reduce maternal mortalities. Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo also made it public that the 1-month waiting period, which was previously compulsory after registering or renewing one's card, had also been waived. Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo also attended the 9th General Assembly of the African First Ladies Peace Mission in Abuja, Nigeria in November. It was hosted by Nigeria's First Lady, Dr. Aisha Buhari.
The wife of the Vice President, Mrs. Samira Bawumia, also had a full itinerary during the year under review. She was present at most of the programs attended by the Vice President as well as the First Lady. However, she undertook some solo engagements both home and abroad. Also known as champion of the Global Health and Energy Platform of Action, HEPA. Perhaps key among her engagements was her participation in discussions at the UN Climate Change Summit in Glasgow, Scotland, where she joined other global leaders to seek ways of combating its effects. And for those of you who may be interested, a fashion game was on point. Here are highlights of the activities of Hajia Samira Bawumia in 2021.
Coming out of election 2020 and the inauguration of the President and Vice President in January, the wife of the Vice President, Mrs. Samira Bawumia, made appearances at many government functions and programs. She attended the memorial and Thanksgiving service of the late former President, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, at the Black Star Square. On 1st March 2021, she joined the President and other high-profile officials to take her first shot of the COVID-19 vaccine at the police hospital. On International Women's Day on March 8th, Mrs. Bawumia joined other women, including the First Lady, to highlight issues affecting women and proffer solutions to the challenges they face. In the year under review, Mrs. Samira Bawumia advocated for our culture and heritage to be protected and further developed through research. She was addressing the Heritage and Culture Society of Africa Access 2021 Virtual Sankofa Summit in July. In Glasgow, Scotland, at the UN Climate Change Summit in November, Mrs. Bawumia was one of the participants who highlighted the effect of air pollution caused by lack of access to clean cooking solutions. On the sidelines, she addressed the SDG 7 Energy Access event, where she called on the global community to commit more resources, political will, and to incorporate more female perspectives in the design and implementation of clean energy solutions to enable us achieve the targets. By all standards, 2021 was another parked affair for the wife of the Vice President. And for the fashion monitors, many thought her outfits and combinations were spot on.
happenings in the first session of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic. This particular parliament will go down in history as one of the most vibrant for the legislature. Drama started from day one when members had to pick their speaker for the next 4 years. It continued even into a fight as to which side of the House deserved to be called the majority. We recap the highlights of the meetings of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic.
The 8th Parliament chapter opened with the election of the Speaker of Parliament and the inauguration of members of the House at midnight of January 6, 2021. With more than 100 new members, both sides had 29 new female members each. What was supposed to be a short process became chaotic with disruptions and commotion, leading to the presence of armed security personnel in the chamber. This dragged on into the early hours of January 7. Later, the NDC's Mr. Alban Sumana Kingsford was elected Speaker and sworn in as the first ever Speaker from a political party that was not the party in power. This was followed by the inauguration of the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, and his Vice, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, for a second 4-year term. The banter continued as to whether the NPP side, by virtue of the decision of the only independent member, Mr. Andrew Amoako-Esiama, to do business with that side, qualified it to be called the majority. The spread of the novel COVID-19 pandemic soon hit the legislature, infecting more than 10 members of the House and 151 parliamentary staff. This forced the House to quickly take measures to curb the spread. These measures did not help much, forcing the House to go on a 3-week break. Before then, the Member of Parliament for Bawku Central, Mr. Mahama Ayariga, presented the first ever private members' motion to encourage government to take steps to suspend the admission fees for public university students in the 2020-2021 academic year and also reduce the fees of all continuing students. The members debated on the motion, and when it was finally put to a voice vote, it was rejected by majority members. The selection of membership to the various committees generated days of arguments from the two major party representatives. While the majority side believed they should have more members because of their title of being the majority group, the minority side disagreed. Introduction of the new standing orders was expected to resolve this. Until then, based on the formula of 138 to 137 ratio, the Committee of Selection picked 10 members each for the Business Committee and 13 for the Appointments Committee. While on break, the Appointments Committee vetted ministers nominated by the President to form the NPP's government. The vetting generated public interest, especially when some of the ministers were said to have provided unsatisfactory responses to the questions put by some members of the committee. The lawmakers resumed sitting to receive the President for his first State of the Nation address to the 8th Parliament, and since the Finance Minister was on medical leave, the Majority Leader of Parliament, Mr. Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, on Friday, March 12, presented the 2021 budget to the legislature, the first time in the history of the 4th Republic. Approving the document was, however, not without drama. After a head count to determine its approval, the majority had 137 votes as against 134 for the minority. The Finance Minister, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, was the last to be vetted by members of the Appointments Committee, a process which took 2 days. Before the legislature could draw the curtain over the first meeting of the 8th Parliament, one of the most vibrant members of the Appointments Committee, Mr. Samuel Okujeto-Ablakwa, resigned from the committee. Mr. Ablakwa has been a member of the committee since the 6th Parliament. The final days of the third meeting had the commencement of a public hearing of a memoranda sent in respect of the Proper Human Sexuality and Ghanaian Family Values Bill 2021. Parliament's Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs was to consider 160 memoranda. The disruption of homes and properties from the tidal waves in Keta and surrounding communities generated a heated debate in the House, leading to near fisticuffs outside the plenary. On the 17th of November 2021, the Finance Minister, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, presented the 2022 budget statement to the legislature. Prominent in it was the reversal of the road toll and the inclusion of the 1.75% levy. The adoption of this budget would generate weeks of back and forth from the two major political sides. The minority refused to approve the budget with a 1.75% electronic levy. On Friday, November 26, 2021, the group rejected the budget while the majority walked out. On Tuesday, November 30, in the absence of the Speaker, the first Deputy Speaker, Mr. Joseph Osei, led the majority side to quash the decision of the Speaker and in turn approved the budget. The minority refused to be part of this decision. The banter would continue as to which of these two decisions was legal and which was not. A gameplay of some provisions of the Constitution and standing orders would be put to action by the two sides. Based on demands by the minority side, the Finance Minister made some modifications to the budget but refused to back down on the controversial e-levy. On the 16th of December, the Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Alban Bagbin, returned to the chair to put to rest all the hubbub regarding the approval of the 2022 budgets. Before the House could rise for the year, the legislature was once again caught in a brawl when the first Deputy Speaker, Mr. Joseph Osei, attempted to participate in vote count to set aside Standing Order 80+1 to take a decision on whether the e-levy should be considered under the certificate of urgency or not. The lawmakers finally took their holiday break on December 21, 2021, leaving the passage of electronic levy hanging. For now, the House is adjourned sine die.
Now to the courts, which had a full 7 of high-profile cases from January to December. The judges and lawyers crisscrossed on the election petition, Cocoa Board boss, NDC chairman, Pastor Owusu Bempah, and spousal matters. We recap some of these stories.
On December 30, 2020, former president and candidate for the main opposition NDC in the 2020 election, Mr. John Mahama, filed a petition at the Supreme Court of Ghana challenging the validity of the election results, which declared incumbent President Akufo-Addo winner of the presidential election. The petition had the EC, the Attorney General and President Akufo-Addo as defendants. After 3 months in court, which ended in March 2021 and was telecast live, a 7-member panel of the Supreme Court, presided over by the Chief Justice Enini Yeboah, in a unanimous decision, dismissed the petition filed by Mr. Mahama, saying it lacked merit. The trial against former Cocoa Board Chief Executive Dr. Stephen Opuni and Mr. Seydou Agongo, Chief Executive of Agriculture Ghana Limited, enters its 4th year with a barrage of failed applications filed by Dr. Opuni at the Supreme Court and the High Court to have the trial judge, Justice Clemens Onyanyuga, removed from the case, alleging bias against Dr. Stephen Opuni. The Cocoa Board boss is standing trial for allegedly causing over 217 million Ghana cedis in financial loss to the state. The church also had 2 of its clergymen, Pastors Isaac Owusu Bempah of the Glorious Word Power Ministry International and Stephen Kwesi Appiah, also known as Jesus Ahoɔfɛ of the New Life Kingdom Chapel, prosecuted by the state over different criminal charges. Chief Executive of Collapsed Capital Bank, Mr. William Atu Asian, Nana Appiah Mensah, one of defunct gold dealership company Men's Gold, and former Director General of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT, Mr. Ernest Thompson, also in the dock at the Accra High Court for various financial offences. 9 men and 1 female, including top police officer ACP Dr. Benjamin Akojo and Chief Executive of Citadel Hospital, Dr. Frederick Yao Makpam, have been accused of allegedly planning to destabilize the country in a coup d'etat and are in court on various criminal charges. Similarly, members of the Western Togoland Front, a prohibited organization, who are arrested over their involvement in activities to supposedly secede the Volta region from Ghana, are on trial for treason. Finally, Member of Parliament for Madina, Mr. Francis Xavier Susu,
is before the Kaneshi Circuit Court for the offense of unlawfully blocking a public road and the destruction of public property. The outspoken MP was dragged to court by the police after he failed to answer several invitations by the police to answer questions on some incidents that took place in his constituency during demonstrations over bad roads.
It was an eventful year for the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation as it activated an agenda to move from bureaucracy to business. While exploring avenues to raise funds for its programs, the corporation continued collaborations and engagements with key stakeholders within and outside our shores, known as the Fourth Estate of the Realm. Issues within and concerning the media and its function always grab attention. Here is a look back at 2021 for the state and public service broadcaster and other stories which dominated headlines in the general media landscape.
Early this year, the United Nations Population Fund UNFPA country representative in Ghana, Mr. Niyi Ojolape, called on the Director General and Management of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation in Accra. It was to express the UNFPA's appreciation to GBC for support in fulfilling their mandate and also seek further partnership in their various advocacy programs. The Ghana Broadcasting Corporation put structures in place to step up its own operations in 2021 and beyond. As part of the move, management of the corporation organized a training program for the technical production staff in line with GBC's transformational agenda of moving from bureaucracy to business. The Ghana Journalists Association, GJA, and partners in January renewed their resolve not to relent until justice is delivered for the family of investigative journalist Ahmed Swale. The late Ahmed Swale of Tiger IPI was shot dead in Medina after an investigative piece on corruption in Ghana's football administration. January 16, 2021 marked the second anniversary of his murder. In March 2021, the judiciary issued a statement warning the media on how it commented on the Supreme Court's handling of the 2020 election petition. The statement prompted the Ghana Journalists Association to respond to what it perceived were threats against the media by the judiciary. GJA President Mr. Afel Moni said the judiciary has the power to commit any erring journalist or media house for contempt using the appropriate mechanisms, but has no right to intimidate or promote the culture of silence in the media or in the country. That same month, students of the Ghana Institute of Journalism protested against directive by the school's management to defer their courses over late fees payment. The students gave reasons for the delays in payment, saying it was insensitive on the part of management to issue such directive, whereas students were made to pay a fee of 200 cedis as penalty for late payment. The National Communications Authority (NCA) in the second quarter of the year announced plans to shut down some 49 television channels operating without valid licenses, contrary to Section 2(4) of the Electronic Communications Act 775 of 2008. Virgin TV, Thunder TV, Maranatha TV, Pekubunsam and Obo TV channels were affected during the process. The 2021 World Press Freedom Day marked the 30th anniversary of the Windhoek Declaration in Namibia. 30 years on, journalists, editors and publishers across Africa gathered to draft a call for press freedom. Since then, the day is celebrated world over each year. At the Accra commemoration on the theme, 30 years after Windhoek Declaration, information as a public good, journalists were tasked to be truthful in disseminating issues. Information Minister Mr. Kojo Ponkroma during the year paid a working visit to state-owned media houses for first-hand knowledge of their operations. He visited the GBC to understand the workings, challenges and feats of the corporation. At the Ghana News Agency, Mr. Ponkroma commended management for the foresight towards regaining leadership in the country's media landscape while interacting with the board, management and staff. He pledged the ministry's continued support towards the agency's digital drive. Broadcast journalist with CTFM and CTTV Caleb Kuda was arrested on Tuesday, May 11, 2021 by operatives of the National Security for allegedly filming at the premises of the National Security Ministry, a restricted security zone. He was released after more than an hour of interrogation. Another CT journalist, Zoe Abubeidu, who was also picked up later at the premises of CTFM CTTV, was released much earlier after a brief interrogation by security officers. Zoe Abubeidu was said to have received the files allegedly captured by Caleb Kuda on her phone. An investigation committee set up by the Ministry of National Security to look into the incident submitted its findings. The committee found that the conduct of the Director of Operations, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Ajamine, and some police officers at the ministry on the said day was inappropriate and contravened the ministry's standard operating procedures. In August, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation and UNICEF initialed a document to begin the broadcast of a sensitization project concerning adolescents, newborns, maternal health and lead poisoning. With this formal agreement, GBC provided airtime on its major programs and channels for 6 months where these issues were critically assessed to the benefit of children and the community. Here are some more activities from the GBC media space during the year in pictures.
Border dialogue during the year 2021 spanned political, social, and the economic circles. This is where we bring you the stories and headlines you have missed in those sectors.
Just a few days after the ruling on the 2020 election petition, thousands of dead fish washed ashore on the banks at the Osu Beach in Accra on Friday, April 2. A number of dolphins and a large number of different species of fish were also washed ashore along the coast of Axim Bere in the Nzima East municipality of the Western region. Some fishmongers snuck majority of the fish away for sale to the unsuspecting public, even though some were concerned that the fish could be poisonous and should not be eaten. The Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, in collaboration with the Fisheries Commission, launched the 2021 close season for artisanal and industrial fishing fleets in Ghana, which started from 1st July to 31st August 2021. Youth activist Ibrahim Mohammed, also known as Macho Kaka, was assaulted while returning home in Ijura on motorbike on 26th June 2021. He died from his injuries at the Comfort Anochi Teaching Hospital 3 days after the attack. Some claimed he was killed by armed men because of frequent criticisms of the government on social media. The youth in Ejura protested after the death and burial of Kaka and blocked the Ejura-Atebu road, causing traffic. The police, backed by the military, clashed with the protesters, and in the process, 2 people, Nasiru Yusuf and Mutala Mohammed, were shot and killed by the security personnel who fired live ammunition into a crowd of protesters. 4 others were injured. The National Peace Council and other organizations condemned the incident and called for investigations into the matter without delay. As the matter garnered political undertones, President Akufo-Addo instructed for the formation of a 3-member committee constituted by Ambrose Derry to inquire into the sequence of events that led to the shootings at Ejura. In September 2021, the committee submitted a 54-page report to the government. Among other things, the committee recommended the removal of the MCE for the area, who had already pulled out of the race for a new MCE, and compensation for the affected families and victims. But the family of Machu Kaka rejected the report. The NDC was also unhappy, throwing its support behind the family of the late Kaka to reject the report. Ghana and other countries in the Commonwealth marked the 76th Remembrance Day, also known as Poppy Day. The day, which falls on November 11 each year, is set aside to honor soldiers of the Commonwealth who lost their lives in World War I and II. Some aggrieved toll booth workers on Tuesday, November 30, congregated at the Accra Sports Stadium in protest at the discontinuation of road tolls by the government following the presentation of the 2022 budget statement to Parliament, which they said had led to an abrupt termination of their contract with their employers. The secretary of the Ghana Toll Workers Group, Mr. Edward Duncan, said they are pleading with the Ministries of Roads and Highways and Transport to ensure the payment of their salary arrears and for a proper job termination process according to law to be followed. The government's 2022 budget and economic statement proposed the cessation of road and bridge toll collection. Subsequently, with immediate effect, the Roads Minister, Mr. Kwesia Mwakwata, directed the discontinuation of such tolls. Greater Accra Regional Minister, Mr. Henry Quartey, began an initiative dubbed Make Accra Work to beautify the capital city. As part of the initiative, onion sellers at the Agbogbloshie market were relocated to Ajen Kotoku in the Ga West district and also to Gomua. The e-waste dump site at Agbogbloshie was also removed. Proposals for the reclaimed site are still being put together. The regional minister also banned tricycles, popularly known as Aboboya, from using the Accra Tema motorway with effect from Monday, 1st November 2021. Recalcitrant operators who mostly carried refuse for disposal continued to use the road until the minister resolved to deploy police officers to both ends of the motorway from 2nd November to enforce the directive. In 2021, former President John Mahama toured the regions. He addressed topical issues and subjects while calling on governments to do more for Ghanaians. On a tour to the Upper West region, while interacting with the overlord of the Wala traditional area, Nafusaini Seidu Pelpo, the former president, added his voice to calls on the government to quickly fix roads in areas where torrential rains had led to floods which washed away some roads. Mr. John Mahama ended his tour in Accra on Wednesday, November 10, 2021. Alhaji Mashood Mohammed from Mio district in the northern region was adjudged the national best farmer for 2021, which took place at the Adisadel School Park in Cape Coast in the central region on December 3. The national best fisherman award went to Mr. Kwekwe Shen from Goma East in the central region. They received their prizes at the 37th National Farmers' Day celebrations, which had the theme Planting for Food and Jobs, Consolidating Food Systems in Ghana. Leadership of the Coalition of Commercial Drivers Union under the Ghana Road Transport Union GPRTU suspended a sit-down strike which they called on Monday, 6th November, to pressure the government to reduce fuel prices. The hours-long strike caused inconveniences to travel for passengers who rely on public buses called Trotro to get to various destinations. The coalition confirmed the resumption of their service, followed by discussion at the presidency on Monday afternoon. 2 days after the strike, Ghana Oil Company GOIL reduced the price of fuel by 15 pesos after a directive from Akufo-Addo, following a crunch meeting with driver unions at the presidency on Tuesday. A litre of fuel at GOIL sold at 6.70 pesos. Here are some in pictures.
the classroom for many students and teachers after months of being forced to stay home due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which massively affected the educational calendar for preschool to tertiary levels across the country. And as 2021 progressed, stakeholders in education adapted to the new normal and made the necessary changes. Coming up, some notable stories in the education circles in 2021.
After almost 10 months off-site to curb the spread of the deadly coronavirus, in-person lessons resumed for pupils and students, but with strict adherence to the COVID protocols. This followed the easing of restrictions by the President in his 21st COVID-19 address to the nation in January. It was to ensure that all school-going children catch up with the academic calendar starting from Monday, January 18, 2021. Meanwhile, the Ghana Education Service ordered all schools to promote students to the next class and complete the academic curricula without writing the promotional examinations. There was also a directive to run the new curriculum concurrently with the old one. The GES warned especially private schools not to demand compulsory negative COVID-19 test results from students before admission or charge for testing fees to run private tests for students. One of Ghana's finest brains in mathematics was lost during the year, but months before his passing, the president of the Ghana Mathematics Society, Professor Sichope Anku, continued his quest to get students to love the subject and to see it as part of everyday life. Portions of the contents of a textbook for primary school children caused public outcry in March this year, when some said it appeared to denigrate certain personalities and tribes, particularly the Evers in the country. A number of groups and organizations called for immediate withdrawal of the books as well as investigations and a possible ban of the publishers. The Convention's People's Party, CPP, later called on the President to dissolve the governing board of the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment over the portrayal of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah as a dictator in the history of Ghana Basic 6 textbook. The party said that was in bad taste, offensive and inaccurate information about the founder of the CPP and the first president of Ghana. Still on education, authorities of Achimota SHS made headlines during the year after it emerged that 2 Rastafarian students who had been given admission after being posted there by the computer school placement system were asked to conform to the rules by cutting their dreadlocks. The students said they could take whatever action deemed fit against Achimota school. As the public and even Parliament debated on whether or not the school made the right call, the students, Tyrone Iras Magai and Oheniban Krabia, sued Achimota School in separate suits in March 2021 for refusing them enrollment to the school due to their hair. In June, the Human Rights Court Division 1 of the Accra High Court, in separate judgments, ordered that the 2 students be admitted to continue with their education. According to the court, Achimota's insistence for the 2 to cut their dreadlocks, which is a manifestation of their religion, before their acceptance violates the 1992 Constitution, adding that religious rights has nothing to do with upholding discipline in the school. A national standardized test for primary 4 students to improve on learning outcomes in basic schools were administered on 17 December 2021. The standardized test is spearheaded by the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service. Still on education, the West African Examinations Council officially released provisional results of candidates for the 2021 WASSCE in December. The council hosted the results online on Wednesday, December 5th, making it possible for candidates to access their results on their website or by dialing the shortcode *944#. Meanwhile, 45% of candidates failed the 2 key core subjects, Maths and English. Here are more stories on education in pictures.
still watching Year in Review 2021 on GTV, GBC News and DSTV channel 278. Now we look at happenings in the health sector. The country could not attain herd immunity against COVID-19 as hoped, with just about 7% of the population fully vaccinated. There was a surge in COVID-19 deaths, but this was mainly because of failure to adhere to safety protocols and to vaccinate against the disease, even though Ghana had recorded two new highly transmissible variants, the Delta and Omicron. However, a number of interventions, such as the inclusion of some childhood cancers onto the National Health Insurance Scheme, were implemented.
The Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service declared the month of December as COVID-19 vaccination month. This was to curb an anticipated surge in COVID-19 cases during the festive season and from the number of international arrivals. It was also to ensure that the country, its targeted herd immunity, having at least 20 million Ghanaians vaccinated. The Public Health Act emergency mandate and protocols are expected to be activated by January 2022 to have health workers, government workers, security personnel, staff, teachers and senior high schools as well as commercial drivers vaccinated. On Wednesday, 24 February 2021, Ghana received her first consignment of 600,000 doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines made by the Serum Institute of India. President Akufo-Addo, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and their wives took the first COVID-19 jab in the country at the 37 Military Hospital and the Police Hospital respectively. Also, former President John Mahama and his wife, Mrs. Lodina Mahama, and the Asantehene Otumfuo Setutu also vaccinated against the disease. Drones were deployed to distribute COVID-19 vaccines to hard-to-reach areas. Ghana currently has 5 vaccines approved for use. Meanwhile, the Food and Drugs Authority approved the administration of the Pfizer vaccines to 15-year-olds in the country, since those within that age bracket constitute an active part of the population who could potentially spread COVID-19. What started as a conversation among 2 women in a taxi who had gone to buy a baby led to the arrest of some medical practitioners and social welfare staff in January this year, who have over the years been harvesting and trafficking babies for monetary gains. The Economic and Organized Crime Office, (EOCO), teamed up with the Medical and Dental Council to investigate the culprits and facilities where they operated and got 3 babies in its custody. The accused were variably charged with criminal and other offenses for participating in a criminal group, money laundering, conspiracy, and the offense of operating a health facility without a license. Meanwhile, the licenses of the 2 medical doctors were suspended by the Medical and Dental Council. For the first time in the history of West Africa and Ghana, the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra offered cochlear implant surgeries on some children with hearing impairment. The Health Facilities Regulatory Agency in February, HEFRA, closed down 4 health facilities in the Ashanti region for operating without a license. They include Lake Road Clinic at Atonso, Chris Pat Hearing Center at Bomso, Castro Home Care at Abuabo, and EchoScan Diagnostic Center at Old Tafo.
From road carnage to fires, buildings collapsing and tidal waves causing havoc in some coastal communities, 2021 was not without its accidents and disasters. As I look back at some of the more distressing happenings in the year under review.
The lives lost to accidents and other disasters this year alone were in the thousands once again. On March 7, 2021, about 20 teenagers aged between 12 and 17 years drowned at their Palm Beach in Gumua West District of the Central Region. The teenagers were said to have used an alternative route into the sea at the blind side of the fisherfolk and the police, as the restrictions on beaches were still in force. Final funeral rites and burial for the 13 teenagers were held on March 16, 2021. In April, more than 40 shops got burnt in a fire at the Kumasi Central Market at Alaba. At Bremen, a mining community in the Upper Dintra West District of the Central Region, 3 unidentified persons were confirmed dead after being trapped in a pit during an illegal mining or galamsey operation. The deceased included a man, a woman, and a girl believed to be 10 years old. 40 others, believed to be between the ages of 24 and 35, were also trapped in the pit. It's been 6 years since 3 days of continuous rain in June 2015 resulted in the flooding in part of Accra, including the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. A fuel leakage from the Guel service station in the area sparked a fire from a cigarette stub, leading to what has become known as a twin disaster, a devastating fire and flood catastrophe resulting in the deaths of 154 people. Hundreds of the other people suffered severe burns in the unfortunate incident. In 2021, victims continue to call for support. On July 5 this year, about 50 shops at the Hong Kong market near the GCB Bank at Makola were razed down by fire. Fabrics, cosmetics, jewelry, toys and other wares valued at thousands of Ghana cedis were burnt. A week later, the 3-story building was demolished by the 48th Engineers Regiment of the Ghana Armed Forces and officials of NADMO and the Ghana National Fire Service. In the early part of November, 13 people died on the spot, with several others sustaining various injuries in an accident on the Accra-Kumasi Highway. The accident occurred at Ohene Nkwanta, a suburb of Konongo. 8 bodies were retrieved after a canoe which was ferrying some students of the St. Charles Junior High School at Saboba in the northern region capsized on the Oti River in November. 3 other students were unaccounted for. The victims were among 31 students of the school who had allegedly gone to work on their headmaster's farm earlier in the day and were returning home in batches when the disaster struck. Meanwhile, the headmaster, who reported himself to the police, was detained and charged with manslaughter on November 15, 2021. Still in November, hundreds of residents were displaced when tidal waves hit some communities along the Keta-Aplao stretch in the Volta region. The coastline from the Tema Naval Base to Paradise Beach was also affected, with waters carrying away property as well as a public pipe that serves residents of Tema New Town. In Parliament on Tuesday, November 10, members of the Volta Regional Caucus appealed to NADMO to release relief items to support the 350,000 affected households. Here are some other accidents recorded in 2021 in pictures.
It is natural to die as to be born. While many celebrated life and a chance to correct or make up for wrongs, not everyone made it through 2021. From the lives lost to COVID-19, accidents and other unfortunate happenings, some families said goodbye to their loved ones who passed away. Here are some of the precious lives lost on earth, but whose memories live on in the hearts of those who left behind.
Lowest growth in 37 years. The economic downturn confirmed the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic on the Ghanaian economy. It, however, rebounded in the first and second quarters of 2021, expanding 3.1% and 3.9% respectively. In the third quarter, the economy expanded at the fastest pace since the emergence of COVID-19, driven by the services sector as schools resumed and remained in operation for more than 6 months. Gross domestic product grew 6.6% in the period. Despite the economy exceeding many estimates, the government has revised its growth target from 5% to 4.4% for this year. Ghana's debt levels reached 77.6% of GDP in September, according to the finance minister when he presented the 2022 budget last month. The country's road toll was replaced with a financial electronic transaction levy in the 2022 budget, as government seeks to raise about 6.9 billion cedis to boost domestic revenue mobilization. While admitting the dire need for revenue to address the shortfalls, the e-levy has received a major pushback in Parliament. After recording negative yields for 3 consecutive years, the Ghana Stock Exchange will finally end the year in the green. The Accra Burs has enjoyed a good run in 2021 and on the path to record one of its best performances after emerging Africa's best stock in 2017. As of December 23, the Ghana Stock Exchange had returned 44.6% interest to investors, with the financial stock at 19.79%. Market capitalization, which rose to over 66 billion in November, is now at 64.53 billion Ghana cedis, a tremendous improvement over the 2020 figure of 54.4 billion, and a 2019 market cap of 56.7 billion Ghana cedis.
For many, 2021 offered an opportunity to recuperate from the devastating effects of COVID-19. However, the year was again fraught with many deadly variants of the virus as it mutated, coupled with the negative effects of climate change, flash floods, wildfires and landslides.
Clashes, terrorist attacks and coups also took part of the deal. But on the upside, COVID restrictions, including travel restrictions and lockdowns, were eased. Also, the world made gains in space travel and the successful hosting of the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, Japan.
On New Year's Eve, a new era began for the United Kingdom after it completed its formal separation from the European Union. On January 6, 2021, a mob of supporters of President Donald Trump attacked the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C. In March, Samia Suluhu Hassan became the first female president of Tanzania following the death of her predecessor, John Magufuli. In November, Sweden's parliament elected Magdalena Andersson as first female prime minister. At what could be her final cabinet meeting, Merkel bade her colleagues farewell and Scholz presented the EU's longest-serving leader with a tree to plant in her garden. She was credited with raising Germany's profile and influence, working to hold a fractious European Union together, managing a string of crises and being a role model for women. Some African artifacts that had been looted in Europe were returned to their original countries. Beginning on October 3, 2021, the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists published the Pandora Papers that exposed the secret offshore accounts of 35 world leaders, including current and former presidents, more than 100 billionaires, celebrities, and business leaders. Civil unrest in 2021 were not limited to Africa alone. The world still had to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic in 2021. More than 4.29 billion people worldwide have received a dose of the COVID-19 vaccine through a mechanism known as the COVAX facility. Over 311 million doses have been administered to 190 countries to beef up vaccination. Meanwhile, thousands marched in cities like Montreal, Sydney, London and Paris to decry the growing number of vaccination mandates by businesses, governments and school districts. While some countries tried to ease COVID restrictions, the second wave of the pandemic gripped others. Headlines around the world painted a grim picture of how the pandemic continued to devastate countries around the world. India reached the grim milestone of 400,000 deaths from the coronavirus. In December, the U.S. surpassed 800,000 pandemic deaths as the country reached 50 million confirmed cases of COVID-19. As COVID cases began to dwindle, countries also eased restrictions. Malls, shops, pubs and cinemas were opened to the public. The US, UK and much of Europe, Saudi Arabia and Canada opened their borders to international travel. Schools across England, US, Bangladesh, Uganda and Peru opened as the virus situation eases and more people got vaccinated. Just as many countries around the world were beginning to loosen their border restrictions, Reports of a newly detected coronavirus variant in South Africa sent many of those doors slamming shut again. The world also had to deal with issues of terrorist attacks, kidnappings and other violent incidents. Extreme weather events in 2021 shattered records around the globe. Hundreds died in storms and heat waves. Farmers struggled with drought. Wildfires set new records for carbon emissions, swallowing forests, towns and homes. Many of these events were exacerbated by climate change. In August, the UN's climate panel delivered their starkest warning yet about the deepening climate emergency, with some of the changes already set in motion thought to be irreversible for centuries to come. From August 31 to November 13, the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, more commonly referred to as COP26, was held at the SEC Centre in Glasgow, Scotland, United Kingdom, to discuss ways of slowing down global warming. Restrictions eased around the world, many migrants use the opportunity to seek greener pastures. According to UNHCR, deaths and missing in 2021 were estimated at 1,589.
Let's get active. 2021 was the year of the new normal in the world of sports. From digital payments to tests for COVID-19, the sports fraternity tried its best to get the better of the deadly virus. Through it all, the year under review was rich in sporting imagery. From stellar individual achievements to exceptional team accomplishments, we recap some of the best moments of the year under review.
And it's Sandra Uswansa, and there's the goal!
In football, Black Queens for Sandra Uswansa was nominated for the 2021 FIFA Puskas Award after scoring an audacious goal.
It's a massive game.
The senior national male football team, the Black Stars, qualified to the playoffs of the FIFA World Cup qualifiers following a 1-0 win over South Africa in Cape Coast. The Black Stars desperately needed to win against Bafana, and Andrea Ayew's first penalty goal sealed an important victory for Milovan Raivak's side. Although the South Africa FA filed a complaint at FIFA contesting the penalty and demanding a replay, their petition was thrown out by world's football's governing body FIFA.
Ayew scores. Coolly slotted home by the skipper.
Ghana's under-20 male football team, the Black Satellite, also did the nation proud by winning 2 trophies in the year under review, having won the Wafu Zone B under-20 Cup after beating Burkina Faso in the final. The Black Satellite went on to win the U20 AFCON as well. Coach Karim Zito's side defeated Uganda 2-0 in the final to win their 4th continental title. Ghana Premier League giant Accra Suffolk ended their 12-year wait for a major trophy after winning the league. The Phobians last won the title in 2009, but manager Samuel Bwedu arrived in March and guided them to win the league. Even better, Hearts went on to secure the double after beating Ash Gold on penalties in the FA Cup final.
Ghana's amputee team, the Black Challenge, also chalked a huge feat when they won the 2021 Amputee Africa Cup of Nations. The Black Challenge defeated Liberia in the final to emerge winners of the tournament, which was hosted in Tanzania. Boxer Samuel Techi secured bronze at the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games following a hugely impressive debut at the quadrennial showpiece. Despite losing the semi-final bout to Duke Reagan, Techi entered the history books after ending Ghana's 21-year wait for an Olympic medal. Ghana had only won 4 medals since the inception of the Olympic Games, of which 3 came from boxing. Azakes Ladies cemented their place as the best women's team in Ghana after enjoying a fruitful 2021. The second base side won the treble after winning the Ghana Premier League, the FA Cup and Wafu Zumbi Cup. They subsequently represented Ghana at the first ever CAF Women's Champions League, where they lost to South Africa side Mamelodi Sundowns in the finals. They ended the season well by winning the first edition of the First Ladies Cup in Accra. In hockey, Ghana hosted the Africa Cup for Club Champions event at the Theodosia Okun Hockey Stadium in Accra. GRA Ladies team beat Dr. Queens to claim the gold medal. GRA's Mavis Befi won the women's best player of the tournament. Ghana Rugby Union did the nation proud by hosting and winning the Rugby Africa Sevens World Cup qualifiers at the Paju Stadium in Kumasi. Ghana's ladies trashed Cote d'Ivoire 29 points to 12 in the final to win gold, whilst the men defeated Burkina Faso 17 points to 15 in a breath-stopping game on the day. The men and women's sevens team have thus secured a historic qualification to next year's event.
What shall I say? Well, it was another exciting year in the entertainment industry in 2021. Many of the artists absolutely lifted their game, yet all was not rosy. The year had its own downside for some.
We've compiled some highlights from the arts and tourism sector.
The 2021 Pan Affairs Emancipation Day took place amidst strict adherence to the COVID-19 safety protocols. This year's event was strictly by invite. Others participated virtually. A crocodile attacked a female tourist at the Ave Crocodile Resort at Avedakpa in the Akachi North District of the Volta region. The reptile also attacked 2 other visitors. Afrobeat and highlife artist Kiddy was adjudged Artist of the Year at the 2021 3 Music Awards. There were spectacular performances on the night which generated a buzz for some time. Still on awards, 2021 was a year for gospel artist Dinah Hamilton. Dinah won the VGMA Artist of the Year, picked up the most streamed Female Artist of the Year award at the 3 Music Women's branch. She also won the Artist of the Year at the Ghana Music Awards USA, and Artist of the Year, Gospel Artist of the Year, and Gospel Song of the Year at the Ghana Music Awards UK. The One Corner hit maker, Patapaa, got hit to his German girlfriend in 2021. Later, Patapaa confirmed that his wife, Leah Miller, was pregnant. One of the music beefs that some considered immature came from the camp of Lynx Entertainment. It was the beef between hip life artist Guru and high life Afrobeat artist Kwame Eugene. Though Guru came out with a diss song for Kwame Eugene, the young champ didn't respond, and that was the end of the beef. Award-winning Ghanaian gospel singer Sonny Badu got a share of trolls on social media for being an academic scam after he posted on social media that he was now a professor and dean of musicology. A Twitter user with the name MNM Mensa with some evidence called Sonny Badu an academic scam. In 2021, dancehall artist Shatta Wale trended for bad reasons. Shatta and his squad first assaulted construction workers. He was also arrested for claiming he had been shot, but the story turned out to be a hoax and was arrested and kept in prison custody. He again caused commotion when the celebrities met with the IGP. Some other celebrities who got entangled with the police are rapper Medical for brandishing a gun on social media and comedian Funny Face for threatening some personalities on social media. Actress Ekuapim Polo was sent to the Nsawam prison